Hello. How are we all?
Hello, doing good, and yourself?
Doing good. Thank you very much. Welcome to episode 6 of an introduction to urban homesteading on budgeting lives. Today we're talking, this is part 2 of the kitchen, where we're talking about the top 10 food preservation methods. And with me to help me to discuss these are Ginger from Not For Nothing Homestead. Well, she was. And
It used to be our friend. He
pretty
just
sure
said,
she's
I'm
back
done.
in a minute. Oh, here she comes. What in the hell, woman?
Sorry, I don't know what happened.
It's all good, honey.
I don't know.
It's all good. I just want to say hello to Annette from Annie's Kitchen and Urban Homestead. Welcome, my darling.
Hello.
So pleased to see you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have these lovely people here to help discuss some of these preserving methods with me, because one in particular that I don't do, and we're going to get to that later on a bit, but we're going to go through some of the easier things first.
Okay.
If it makes you feel any better, I'm sure some of the other 9 you're going to talk about, I don't know. So,
and that's cool. That's not a problem, but that's the point of having you guys here, and so that we can all talk about it, because some of them we do, some of them we don't, some of us know more about than others, and
right.
I want to have a full proper introduction to all of them, rather than just having some of them and not talking about others, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, Suburban Hillbilly, how are you?
Okay. So, good morning.
To kick this off, I thought we would talk about minimal processing, like root cellars, cool storage, and room temperature storage. Okay. So, just like if you've got a basement, or if you're lucky enough to have a root cellar, things like that. Cool storage and room temperature storage is the easiest home food preservation. You've got it where you can grab it. It's an unheated pantry basically, and things coming through my door. Things like, oh gosh, she's playing kangaroos with us.
I think she's playing tag with us, or Joey's over there with Joey's over there with the cable going like this.
Yeah, I think it's Joey pulling her off every now and again. But anywho,
I don't know. It's the weather.
Yeah, it's okay, honey. I totally get it. It's fine. Okay, so if you want to be our resident yo-yo for the day, that's fine.
Hey, it works for me, as long as it's you and not me.
Oh, stop. Don't jinx me.
So these kinds of spaces would be like root cellars, unheated basement space, crawl spaces, or in-ground clamps, which are holes or trenches that are dug for food storage. So some of those, you just like, it's how you would keep fresh potatoes if you had a garden big enough to do that with. You would keep them in a clamp. Other root vegetables you can do that with as well. Some people just dig a hole and put a 5-gallon bucket or something in the hole with things in it, which is another way of doing it, which is kind of cool. We can't do that, so we don't have any of that. Do you guys have any of that?
No, I don't.
No,
I don't.
No, I've seen food caches built into the side of a mountain.
Right.
But we don't have one, which I think is kind of the same thing along the lines of the root cellar.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
well,
that's actually a really popular one.
And in all actuality, there are people. When to my knowledge, and I'm not an expert, so I'm just throwing you out there what I perceive to know. So don't quote me. I'm not. I don't want anybody knocking me upside the head because I said something that was wrong. when geocaching became, I think people did it before, but when geocaching became a thing that people would go out and do, they started actually doing that with food. They would put it in different locations so they weren't all located in a pantry or a root cellar or something like that. So
Yeah.
which is fair enough too, and you can understand why people would do that, especially, you know, certain people and certain types of people would do that. But even as on a personal level, like if I had a property, I would probably have like a basement or roof cellar or something like that, but I would also have like a little cache somewhere built into another space, so that if for some reason that got flooded, or rats got in, or other critters got into it, or something happened, at least we'd have something left. You know?
Yeah.
For me, it wouldn't be so much a security thing. It's more of a, let's be sensible about this and not have all our eggs in one basket kind of.
And for that reason, in all honesty, I don't see anything wrong with it. If you're trying to do other things, then I have issues with it. But with what you just said, I see no problem with that.
I think it's a sensible option, to be honest. If you're going to do that kind of thing, try and have 2 spaces.
Right.
You know? Yeah. But it's all good. Right. So
no grocery store tomatoes.
No, we don't want styrofoam tomatoes. And to be honest, over here right now, there aren't any.
Oh, really?
There's no tomatoes.
Oh, wow.
There are very few. Actually, there's only the very, very posh vine ripened ones in the little plastic things, because the supermarkets aren't paying the farmers who have heated greenhouses. They're not paying them enough money, so the farmers are holding back their stock, which I completely understand.
I mean,
you know?
Yeah.
And the other thing is as well that the rest of our tomatoes come from the Netherlands. The trucks are having to stay for around about 77 hours in customs in Kent. They don't get paid for that time. They're not willing to do it. So, yeah. Yes, there is some rationing going on, but that's a conversation for another time. We're going to move swiftly on. Before we start going down rabbit holes here, we're going to move swiftly on and talk about drying, dehydrating, and freeze drying. Now, I'm pretty sure that none of us here actually do freeze drying, but it is becoming a more popular way of keeping dried food. You know, obviously the sweet part of that, everybody's into their sweeties and things like that because that's the fun side of it. But the very more serious side of it is that people are able to do things like freeze dry milk to make milk powder, eggs to make egg powder, you know, parts of animals so that they can make treats for their you know, parts of the meat that they process that they don't want to eat so that they can make treats for animals. All of that kind of stuff as well as obviously fruit, vegetables, all the other things. So it's becoming a very, very popular thing, but it's hugely expensive. Not only the purchase of the actual freeze dry itself, because that runs into the deposit for a house level, but you know, to be completely honest, let's be honest, you know, if you got that kind of money to spend, I'd be spending it on a deposit for a house, quite frankly, over here, to be fair. But then you've got the running costs of it, because you know, some of it takes a few hours and some of it can take up to 48 hours, and with electric at the moment, that is above what a lot of people can afford to do. So it's the kind of thing that if you're off grid and you've got your own electric, it's a really, really great idea. If you don't, you got to think about, you know, the running costs of this thing as well. So and that goes the same for dehydrators. You can get home ones, which are the little round ones, or sometimes you can get a little square one that's sort of like see-through cases and stuff. Which can be a little bit more hands-on and a little bit more work required with them because you have to change the trays around all the time, or you can get yourself a more commercial based one where the fans are at the back, so it's all evenly being dried at the same time.
Yes,
I have one of those.
And I would say, if you're going to invest, this is again another opinion.
Yeah.
If you're going to invest in one, I think you want to do your research and try to get one that's not consuming so much of your time as well as doing the job. Now,
yeah,
financially speaking, we don't always have that option, and I get that.
No.
Okay. If you're just trying to dehydrate and you got to go with the cheapest way, then you do what you got to do. I get that.
Yeah.
But if you have the option, I would do the research and invest in something that's going to be worth your while and not a pain in the butt later down the road.
The other thing is that the difference between the home ones and the commercial ones is warranties.
Right.
Warranties and quality of product. The commercial ones are built to be run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay, so if you're just doing it for home use, you're not going to be running it that way. So it's going to last you at least 5 to 10 times as long as it's built, as it would do if it was in an actual commercial space. So even if you have to put aside that money and budget it for a little bit longer, if an extra year or so, do some air drying, for example, because that's really easy to do. All you need is a basket or a rack or a tray and just stick it out in the sun. This is really basic stuff that doesn't cost you a penny to do, but it will give you that time to be able to then go and purchase a better option. Leanne has come in from
Tony, isn't it Wendy?
Isn't it Wendy?
Tony, wasn't it Wendy from Hardneck Farms? Her husband made her a sun dehydrator outside. Wasn't that Wendy?
Yes.
Solar dehydrator.
It was a thing
as well, like a little solar.
Yeah, solar. That's what I was thinking. Yes.
Yes.
That thing is fantastic. And if you want an idea of how to dehydrate outside, go check out Wendy's video. Her husband made it for her just out of scrap stuff they had around the yard.
Absolutely.
So there's another one.
Absolutely. Yes. And the other part of it is also doing air drying or hang drying. Right. So, I don't actually use a dehydrator for herbs unless they're going into something like a veg stock powder or something like that, because I use my dried herbs for medicine. If you put them in the dehydrator, the heat wrecks the oils and it's not as usable for medicine and tinctures and things like that. So,
but for a food product, it's good, correct?
Yeah, for food, it's fine. If you're just using it for food, that's fine. But because I have it for all of the above, I tend to just hang them in bunches on a piece of string up in the shed or on the kitchen ceiling or off a window pole or something, whatever, just a couple of weeks. Your room smells really nice while it's happening. Just so
now we all know that her shower curtain is an herb garden.
Yeah. That's awesome. Except for the condensation and the steam buildup, that would probably be a fantastic idea.
Yes.
Can I just ask something real quick?
Of course.
Dirt Road Destiny, did you change your channel name to Dirt Road Destiny Farm? I see her in here. Good morning.
Yeah.
It was Dirt Road Destiny Homestead, unless I'm on glue or something, which is, quite possible. We've been out here working all day.
Well,
But, there is that.
Can I throw a shameless plug in just out of theoretics of what we're
talking
about? She did change her name.
Yeah,
she did.
Tonight we're having on Kettle Kitchen, we're having our giveaway tonight. And the only reason I'm saying it in all honesty is because the grand prize being donated by a really great channel is a 5-tray dehydrator if somebody's looking to win one. So.
Whoa.
Yes, just the little Nesco 5-tray round You know, I have found for me that that just, I mean, that makes it, that does everything I need it to do.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, those ones that have the little heater at the top or the bottom, what you want to do is to have the things that are going to take longest closer to that, and then work your way down through it. That way you don't have to swap and change. But I know a lot of us tend to put all the same thing in all at once rather than do different racks. So that's when you have to swap and change it around. But, you know, it works. It does the job. And that's all I had when my kids were little. You know, I'm a little spoiled now that I've got this lovely big beast that, you know, it's summer because, you know, daylight and it costs a bomb to run. So, you know, yeah.
Did you see Suburban Hillbilly's comment about her getting gifted one?
Yes, I'm just getting to that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's cool. Here we go. Hold on to it for me, Ginger. I was so very grateful. I had a good dehydrator. It was old and about to break. I had a YouTube channel gift, a nice one to me. I'm very grateful to her. Awesome.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
And Leanne's got friends who have got a freeze dryer that let me use it, but hard to travel the 20 minutes one way to their house. But my husband doesn't care for the food taste afterwards. Interesting.
Oh. Yes.
Interesting.
Yes, very interesting.
So make sure you taste the foods from a home freezer dryer before buying one and not just the candy. That's a really smart
tip
thing. Yeah, absolutely smart, because it is a completely different texture and taste to dehydrated foods. So yeah, hang on. I grew up with my mama. She never had a dehydrator, but she would string things up and hang them from her behind her wood stove. We survived and we never got sick.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a very, very easy thing to do. And there's also, you know, when you're doing charcuterie, which is another, you know, preservation method, but it's not specifically one on its own, because it takes in a lot of different parts of food preservation. Like it takes on the air drying, it takes on smoking, it takes on salt, it takes on sugar, it takes on all of those things. Hey, Miss Linda, sapphire diamonds and pearls. Hello, darling. So it doesn't count on its own, but it's mostly counted as wind dried or air dried because it's hung up. You know, so you know a lot of that stuff is just hung up. So yeah. But yeah, so there we go. But it's also a really good thing if you've got if your storage is at a premium. Dehydrated food is a lot less dried food in general, let's just say, takes up a lot less space than, you know, canned food or, you know, ways of storing. So yeah.
Yes. Okay. When I dehydrated my tomato skins and then ground them down in tomato powder, I mean, the storage went from I had a big bowl that then I, you know, dehydrated all of those and they fit into the little tiny cup.
I know, right? Like I had eight packets of raspberries I'd found on offer. Like they'd been marked down, they were reduced, they were like 50p a packet. So I bought 8 of them. I just went, you're coming home with me. You know? They barely fit in a jar that size. They're like filled to there, you know?
Yes.
And it's like, what? How rude.
Yes, but when you open that jar, you only need a little bit of that powder, though, because when you open that jar, man, it smells so good. I can take 1 tablespoon of that tomato powder to 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of water and make tomato paste.
Right.
Not
It's
even sauce.
concentrated. Yeah.
Taste. Yeah, it is really concentrated. So it gives everything a good boost of flavor too. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And a different level as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's nice to have different levels of flavor going on in what you're doing, because it just makes it all
Well,
so much.
I remember somebody asked the question on my channel one time, why have minced garlic, garlic salt, garlic powder, fresh garlic, this, that, and the other. And what a lot of people don't realize is each of those, when paired with something else, have a tendency to put off a different flavor.
Yes.
Even though it's garlic, it's a different level of garlic.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
See, the thing with me is I go through a lot of garlic powder because Tanny is allergic to the gas that is given off by raw garlic.
Right.
So, and when it's cooking, I can't cook bare garlic just in the pan. I can't do it unless it's in the house. I can't do things like garlic bread or anything like that. But I can use garlic powder in a sauce because it doesn't give off that amount of gas.
It doesn't come off that bad, right?
It doesn't come off like that. So, I can do that for him, and I know, I don't have to look at him choking and irking in the corner. So, because that's just messy and rude, actually, because my food isn't that bad. Okay. So, freeze dried some cheddar cheese try to make cheese at crackers, and someone needs to push me to make them. Make them. I want to know how you did it.
Yep.
Yeah, we're pushing you.
Yeah.
Push.
So one of the things she said was she doesn't have a freeze dryer, but one of her farm friends are allowing her to use their freeze dryer.
Yeah.
Ginger, you're a little cut off.
Am I? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I want people to be able to see the comments. So yes, crack on, Blue.
Cool. Sorry,
crack on.
We will get there. We will. We've got.
There's a lot of good information out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So we need to talk about frozen foods. Okay.
Yeah.
Freezing foods is the next one that you usually go to from having a root cellar or, something like that. I mean, like the three easiest ones from what I know are just having cold storage, freezing, or drying foods. They're three of the easiest that you don't need to have a lot of equipment for. It's pretty easy, and you just, the worst that you have to do is chop it up a bit, maybe blanch it.
Right.
Stick it in bags or boxes or whatever you have, whatever containers you have to go in the freezer, so that they just pull out whenever you want them. I mean, that's usually what people do. I mean, they're the more common ones. Are there countertop dryers?
I was just going to answer that.
I don't think so.
There are different sizes of them, though.
Yeah.
So. I don't know how each person's countertop is set up, so I don't want to say yes.
Yeah.
I think most of the ones that I've seen have been put in a completely separate room, or they're put on some kind of trolley that can be wheeled in and out and put away in a cupboard. So, I have a dirt floor cellar for a basement. Don't tease me, Leanne.
I thought you were moving to Pennsylvania, Blue.
I know, but you're gonna have. I can only do that if I win the lottery, man. Because have you seen their land prices? I mean, like seriously, like seriously.
Blue, I would say to add to the freezer storage part.
Yeah.
A very good thing to have is one of those vacuum sealers. Even if you just get, a cheaper one, because I have things in the freezer that are just in Ziploc bags, and then I have same thing in a vacuum sealed bag, and the vacuum seal lasts so much longer without getting freezer burned.
Yeah.
So if freezing is your primary way of preserving your food, or it's a large part of it, vacuum sealing will give you so much more longevity with your product. You don't feel like you have to use it up before it gets freezer burned.
Yeah. And until you've got that, what you can do is have a bowl of water or a sink of water. And then when you put the stuff in your bag, or you use a Ziploc bag or something like that, you pop it in the water and it actually pushes all the air out.
It puts the air out of the bag.
Until you've got nothing left. And then you just zip it up when the zip's almost at the waterline, and then it's completely vacuum at the same way.
There's a lot of crap I hear on YouTube, but I'll tell you what, that is one of the most ingenious things I think I've just recently heard in a very long time.
Yes.
That is smart
good.
idea.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
I'm getting
my hair is
I'm getting up with the Pennsylvania. Look out.
I'll be right back, guys.
Okay.
Real quick.
Okay.
All right. Hang on.
Okay.
Right. So while he's doing that thing, we're going to move quickly on to fermentation.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Fermentation changes low acid foods into high acid foods, giving them a longer shelf life to store as is, or allowing them to be canned in a water bath canner instead of a pressure canner. I tend not to water bath fermented foods because it destroys the good bacteria and microbes that you've actually built up from the fermentation process, which are really good for your gut health. So I tend not to do that. And a lot of them say a lot fresher without doing that, as long as you just keep the airlock on them. They tend to be fine. But, you know, food ferments tend to be using either starter cultures or salt. So, it's, you know, it just depends. I mean, like, one of the things that I do is some of the things that I do is I keep my fermented juice from the last batch to make the next batch. I don't have to use things like salt and things to kick them off. Yes, sauerkraut is fermented, and you don't need to water bath it or to. I have a. Is it 20 liter, 30 liter fermentation bucket that I do 10 cabbages in every single year. And that's a lot. Yeah, but it only looks like that much in the bottom of the barrel once it's done. I mean, it starts off full. Yeah. You've got that much left. Yeah. But as long as the cabbage is kept underneath its own liquid, it's fine. It's fine for as long. You're all good. You know, so yeah.
Suburban Hillbilly said, Blue, you need to move to Georgia. That's where CNI and Mud Mascara are too. Yeah,
Patty says Washington.
Okay, can you just move on this side of the pond? That's what we want. We just want you over here.
I think we'll all share you equally if you just get over here.
Yes. We will. It's like, you know, when you get divorced and I get weekend custody, you get weeknights, you know. We're taking custody turns with Blue.
Oh my goodness. That's hilarious.
We'll have the parenting plan established before you even get here.
Yes.
Oh no, that's so sweet.
That's funny.
Things that I would have to do before that would come over.
Sapphire Diamonds and Pearls says no.
You're
not going. Oh look, Mennonite said I'll take Blue for the winter months like holidays. She gets Thanksgiving and Christmas. Oh, it's funny. That's funny.
Oh, you guys are gorgeous. Thank you.
That's another one that can come on over, and we'll put her on the too.
Yes, come on, yes.
Good
We're
grief.
sharing both Annette and Blue will share and work out a custody deal.
Are you
So do we
guys?
make you digress quite a ways? Where are we at on your list? Sorry, my
Okay,
friend.
I
so
know.
we're working on fermentation foods. Okay, now fermentation foods are things like cheese and chocolate and yogurt or yogurt, depending on where in the world you are. Things like kombucha, which is a fermented drink. Sauerkraut, as we've already discussed. The Korean version of sauerkraut, which is kimchi, which is rather a lot hotter than normal sauerkraut. Sourdough bread and vinegar. But then you've also got your booze.
Your booze.
Your booze. You got your wines.
Boo.
Booze. Booze.
If you happen to have an orchard or a very prolific tree that you have preserved in every other way, the conceivable way that you can think of, its fruit, and all you've got left is this, then you've got options of making different fruit vinegars or wines and things as well. So it's a completely different thing. I will
Moonshine. There's Georgia moonshine is made.
Yeah.
Suburban Hillbilly, you might want to pop up on that one because I know, girl, you're in Georgia. We find the moonshine around here.
Apple pie moonshine.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So, like, fermented products are great. I mean, they can be expensive to first start off if you're buying your starters. That can be an expensive process. But if you look after those starters, you're going to have them forever. And there are people that have got certain fermented starters that have been around for decades and handed down to them by other people, like their parent or grandparent or auntie or uncle or whatever. So, it can be a very cheap way to do things eventually. But like I said, the starter cultures can be really expensive. So it's worth having a look around and seeing what you can get. Recently, I keep an eye on one that's called the site over here that's all about fermentation. And that's all it sells is starters and the kits and all of this kind of thing. And just recently, they've had all their yogurt starters have been dropped from £15.95 to £1.99.
Oh
wow.
One of each.
Yeah.
I got one of each because I want to I actually want to experiment with some plant-based yogurt making. So yeah. What is this? Oh, Ginger, you have no idea. My Uncle Ray was backwoods Tennessee moonshiner. My brother used to buy directly from Popcorn Sutton.
Popcorn Sutton. You have got to be kidding me. He is a legend in moonshining.
Yeah.
Popcorn Sutton. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. I'm going to be doing some more fermentation this year, but again, we're kind of running a little bit behind at this point.
We will shut up. You move on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next thing we're going to look at is preserving in salt and sugar. Now, preserving foods in salt and sugar is far more common. Was a lot more common before canning or freezing or dehydrating was available. Things like salt cod. Salted meats and things like that were air hung. Salt and sugar both draw liquid out of the food. That interferes with microbe growth. Bacteria and molds need water to grow, just like we do. So they do dramatically change the flavor and texture. And they can be an acquired taste for some. Okay. So, but if that's what you've got, if you've been fishing and you've got a whole heap of fish that you don't know what else to do with, that's a good way of doing it and keeping it for long-term storage is salting it. and it doesn't end up being as salty to when you're cooking it, because you have to wash it over and over and over again to get as much of that salt out as possible, so that it's reusable and stuff. Yeah, but it's a way of doing it, and it's cheap. You don't have to have a lot of fancy equipment. Jasper Pudding Face, hello, Janine, darling. How are you? Miss Linda has 14 3-gallon jugs of homemade vinegar I use for stir fry and soups. Awesome.
Wow.
Cool. Fantastic. Okay. So, yeah, preserving in salt and vinegar and sugar is also how you tend to start off a lot of charcuterie as well, because you want to get as much of that juice out as possible of the meats. So it tends to be used a lot for meats and fish rather than anything else. Although sugar tends to be the one that you use for fruit. Sugar preservation with fruit tends to be a good one. So yeah, and that's where you
just out of clarification, when you use sugar and fruit, isn't that considered maceration?
No, no.
Okay.
Maceration uses booze, but we're not quite there yet.
Oh no! I've never heard of booze being used in macerating a fruit. I never have.
You can macerate fruit as like what you mean? Sprinkle the sugar over the fruit and just mix it in so that the liquid just You can do that, but it tends not to be a preserving method, more like a dessert method of. It doesn't keep for as long.
Okay.
But yeah, that does bring out the flavors a little bit. Like if you've got a bunch of strawberries and you want to have strawberries for, with strawberries.
Or you're trying to make a sauce out of those strawberries. Yeah. You would use sugar to extract the juice out of that. Okay, I get it now. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, so the next one is immersion in alcohol. Now, I figure if it was good enough for Lord Nelson, it was good enough for the fruit in the garden. Do you know what I mean?
That's funny.
You laugh all you like, but that was how they brought him back when he died on the ship. They stuck him in a barrel of brandy to preserve his body, because normally they chuck him over the side, right? So they'd wrap him up, chuck him over the side, but they couldn't do it because he was a lord, so they had to bring his body back, so they stuck him in a barrel of brandy. Yeah.
They're thinking smart.
That is smart, yeah?
That is.
So, I mean, like, the most popular one that I know of that a lot of people go for is cherry brandy. Okay, now cherry brandy comes from preserving the cherries in the brandy. Right. So you've got these brandied cherries, and then brandy was a separate thing that you got from that. Brandy is just moonshine that had fruit added and aged. Just saying, yes. Most spirits are just moonshine with other things added to them. I'm just saying.
So is that kind of like the song "The Sailor Said Brandy"?
Something like that. Yes. It is.
Oh, you just had to throw some music in it, didn't you?
Just had to.
It's also a way of making tinctures and extracts. So, like your vinegar extract, or your vanilla extracts, and herb extracts or tinctures tend to be done with alcohol. So with vodka or moonshine or whatever you use, but that's how they tend to do them. But that preserves the flavor extracts better than other things. So we got that one. Then we've got vinegar pickling. Now this is my absolute bestest favorite, and I will tell you for why. It takes 5 minutes. 5 minutes to do vinegar pickling.
5 minutes.
There is no can, no sealing, no nothing. You chuck in your prepared veg. You chuck the vinegar over the top, or your eggs. If if you're doing pickled eggs, you just take the egg things off the shelves. The egg things. You take the clothes off the eggs.
Oh my Lord.
Remove their shells and just stick them into vinegar. And I tell you what, they're perfect. And you can keep them for months and months and months. I mean, I've got a pickle jar for my pickled onions that's been going for 5 years. The same one.
Wow.
All we do is when it empties, I add more stuff to it. Yep. Just add more stuff to it. So it's really simple. Yes, Eastern Europeans immerse fruit in alcohol. They do. It's a very big thing over there. So vinegar pickling is really simple. It's very easy to keep going. It's just, I've got several videos on different pickles that I've done. And honestly, it's such a simple thing to do. It really is. I vinegar pickle my quail eggs. Yeah. Yeah. And you think about it, all the vinegar that are out there. You know, one of my favorite, she mentions quail's eggs. One of my favorite pickled eggs I ever did was quail's eggs with balsamic vinegar.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Oh my God. Yeah. Here's the thing. You can eat homemade food, even fried, that is healthier than store-bought. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the biggest reason behind it is you know what you're putting in it. There's no question about it.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. You know what's there. You know what fats you're using to do the frying with. You know what your pans are like. You know the state of your kitchen. All of that stuff. So it's going to be better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So vinegar pickling is really, really simple. Very, very simple. And you don't have. There's no muss, no fuss, really. It's just a simple thing to do. Then you've got your immersion in olive oil. Immersion in olive oil. So things like olives and mushrooms and things like that, you can immerse in olive oil. Sun-dried tomatoes is another one that's very popular done that way. Artichokes, another one that's very popular done that way.
Somebody do that.
But and that sun-dried tomatoes combines two types of food preservation. You've got the drying aspect, and then you've got the immersion in the oil.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
The only question I get, Larry, about that, and I don't know if you want to talk about this part of it. The question I've always had with the oil submersion: how long does most things last?
Oh, I've got those marinated mushrooms I did last year up there. They're still fine. Are they
sitting out on a cupboard, or are they in a refrigerator?
On the shelf in the kitchen, in the dining room. They, as long as they're part cooked first, they don't ferment.
Okay.
If you put raw things in to immerse in olive oil, you will get a fermentation that occurs.
Okay.
That may drop your shelf stableness. It will still be shelf stable, but not for as long. It may only be for a couple of months rather than a year or 2 years or 3 years kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. So I've also got some brined green cherry tomatoes from a couple of years ago that are actually immersed in olive oil as well. And they're fine.
Right.
The only thing is that they are starting to get a bit soft. So it's like,
so they're starting to break down.
Yeah, they're kind of starting to break down a bit, and that's okay. That's okay. So, but I could put those in a sauce, and it wouldn't be an issue. Okay. So but they're from what, 1, 2, 3 years ago. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's awesome.
Last year we didn't have any tomatoes because we were moving. The year before we lost them all to blight, and the year before we got 25 kilos of green tomatoes because the frost was coming early and they didn't have time to ripen.
Yeah.
So immersion in olive oil. But if you can also look at immersion in animal fats as well, under that, because there's places in Eastern Europe, in Asia, in other parts of Europe, this side of Europe, even over here, that actually pack things like sausages in lard.
Oh, wow.
Sausages in lard. So they're cooked and they're packed, and then you put them in the cold storage area that you're going to keep all this stuff. What is 35 kilos in pounds? Hang on a second.
It's 77.1618.
Yeah, it was quite a lot. Let's just say it was quite a lot.
That is a lot.
Miss Cindy Red, hello.
Hey.
Hello.
So yeah, that's another option as well. If you're doing things like potted meats and things like that, or you want to have sausages for long-term storage and you don't want to take up space in the freezer or the fridge, they don't last forever. They will take, 3 or 4 months tops, I would say. My personal preference. I wouldn't leave it more than 6 months.
Yeah. Okay.
If you're doing potted meats, I would say maybe 2 months, absolute outside, because it's not immersed in it. It's only kept in the fat.
Right.
Okay. Whereas if you're doing big pots of sausages and things like that, and you're just pouring the fat over the top, it's completely immersed in it. It's a completely different thing. So yeah. But do your research. That's all I can say.
Yes.
Do your research. Right. So the next one I wanted to say was cheese making. Okay. So the art of cheese making is referred to in ancient Greek mythology. And evidence of cheese making has been found on Egyptian tomb murals dating back over 4,000 years. It's probably one of our oldest ways of preserving food, especially milk. And it was probably found by accident.
Yeah.
When they're storing in the stomachs of animals, right? So when they used to use like a camel stomach or a goat stomach as a water container, they'd keep the milk in there. And that's how they would store the milk. They'd come back a couple of months later and it'd be like, oops, But they don't want to waste that. So what they do is then they find a way to be able to use it. That's where cheese making has come from. Obviously, different areas, different countries, different towns and villages even have their own ways of making cheese. That's why we have so many.
Different kinds. Yes.
Absolutely. And they're all named after the areas that they came from, because that was the area that, they first came from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, makes sense, because animals have natural rennet in the stomach. They do. However, that would have been washed out first. So they may have been small amount there, but I would say that it came from it just sitting and, separating, shall we say. It separates after a while. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, so that brings us to canning, which includes water bathing, steam canning, and pressure canning. Now, this is why I have help today, apart from the fact that these guys are awesome. They put up with all my rubbish. But, I don't pressure can. There are several reasons for this. One of them is that it's just never been done in the countries that I live in. Okay, so it's not something that is part of my culture to do. Learning a lot, thanks, Blue, but I still ain't eating chittering. What is chittering? I'm going to find out something in a minute. What is chittering?
Yeah. I have no idea.
I have no idea.
I don't know what that is.
No clue.
Me either.
But these guys pressure can and know about steam canning and that kind of thing. Oh, chitlins.
Chitlins. Okay.
Neither am I.
What are chitlins?
Yeah.
What are chitlins?
If I remember, I'm going to let her answer it because I'm going to massacre it, but I think I know what it is. What?
No, go right ahead. Go right ahead. I can't.
The small intestines
Yeah.
of domestic animals.
Yes.
I
yes,
don't.
Yes.
Is it? Oh,
pigs
pig
usually.
intestines.
Yeah.
Pig
You
intestines.
know
Yeah.
that's what they put the sausage in, right?
The skins. Yes.
That's the casing for sausages.
Yes.
Okay, they're not fried until you fry the sausages, but you know that's what the casings for sausages are is the intestines. So you know.
Yeah.
But,
Not
you
happening.
guys crack me up. You really
Not
do crack me
happening.
up.
We're running off course here, sister.
Yeah, we are, but that's okay. All right. So these guys know about that and probably some water bathing. I do water bathing, so we can kind of probably get through this bit. But I've written nothing about this because I don't know anything about it. So, well, I know what you guys have been talking about, and I know a little bit. I know the basics, okay? But
well, the other thing I would want to throw out there is that we also come from two different countries that have two different thought processes to this. So I think people need to understand that the U.S. takes it very differently than UK or most of the rest of the world, for that matter. Okay, so I just want to throw that out there because I think it's important for people to understand that while you might speak of it from one direction, we're usually speaking at it from a different direction. So
absolutely. So, Ginger.
Yes.
Can you explain pressure canning in a basic level for me? Like, okay, you're talking to an idiot and you need to explain it to her, okay?
Oh, Tony's got props. So do I.
Oh, got props. Look at you with your props.
Yeah. Well, pressure canning is basically for your low acid foods that need that high intense pressure to go all the way deep into the center and make sure and get rid of all of the possibilities for sicknesses, illnesses, that kind of thing. That's the U.S. stance on it. I'm trying to speak to both audiences, but it's a little hard. So most of us do have the USDA's Complete Guide to Home Canning. You do want to make sure, and I'm not sure why we in the U.S. have such a different stance than the rest of the world. I'm not sure if it's our climate of where we would store our foods. I'm not sure I'm not sure why that is. But, I'm just kind of one of those do as you're told or else. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it. So, so pressure canning, you basically, prepare the food as instructed. Some things you are allowed to, like meats, and some recipes for vegetables, you are allowed to raw pack them. So in their raw state, some of them you have to par cook or blanch, and and some you cook all the way through, like jellies, but jellies are water bath. Jellies are a water bath thing, and most of your tomatoes are a water bath thing. You can pressure can tomatoes as well, but I think the more favorable product you're going to end up with is if you do it through the water bath method. And that's the way I always choose to do it. But so yeah, so you get yourself a pressure canner, a nice pressure canner. I have a Presto here. Here's my lid. And I have other props too. So this is a dial gauge.
Right.
And then this is your weighted pressure. So this goes on this the top here. You just screw that. Oh, you can't see it. Sorry. Anyways, according to different elevations in the US,
right,
you know whether you need to do 10, 15, but I don't know of any. Does anybody do 5 pounds of pressure? Tony, do you know?
I have never seen a recipe that called for 5.
I don't think so. So that's probably just, to get you up to the correct temperature. But anyways, and then once you do that, you put your weighted gauge on your canner, on this little stopper here, and that keeps all that pressure in there, and it builds and builds and builds. And once you're where you need to be, you level your heat and then go for the time that the USDA Complete Guide to Home Canning says is the safest to preserve what's in that jar. Okay. So that could be vegetables that come out of your garden. It could be meats that you want to do, poultry you want to do, fish you want to do. I've done salmon. I love pressure can salmon. It is absolutely delicious. Yeah. And so, okay, Tony, I'm sure I've missed 10 million things. So fill in where you can.
No, I think you did a really good job. I think what the important thing to remember is, at least in the US, their argument is that boiling water in water bath canning only gets to 212 degrees to kill what they feel are important things, the bacteria to get rid of. You need to get it up to 250 degrees, which you only reach by pressure canning. Now, that's their argument. I know others have a different opinion
Fahrenheit,
of that.
Right?
That is Fahrenheit. Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, because I forgot about that part.
That's okay.
Yes.
I think the other thing that's important too, which you already hit on, but it's at least from the US standpoint, it's about the altitude you're at, the amount of pressure that you create for the length of time you do it to penetrate through that food to the center, to kill off anything from the center out. That's the point you're trying to get after. And in the US, we feel that the only way to do that is to pressure can, because of exceeding that 212 degrees Fahrenheit number. You have to pressure can. So.
Right. Okay. Cool. All right. So we do 2 things over here. We either do hot packing or we do water bathing. Water bathing is basically you can do in any big stock pot, any big pot that you've got. Hang on, Cindy Brown's going, when canning fruit below 1,000 feet, you use 5 pounds. There you go.
Oh,
now, according to my book, it doesn't say that. I don't see a recipe that says that. I'm not saying she's wrong. I just have not seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I tend to only look at my altitude anyways.
Well,
yeah, but when you look at the recipes, it says 0 to 1,000 feet uses 10 pounds of pressure.
Right. Yeah. Oh, okay.
So I mean, I'm not sure. I would have to have her tell me where to go. I use the USDA.
Oh, she said according to Presto.
Yeah, I use the USDA book. That's what I go by.
Yeah, yeah.
See, it seems to me that there's a lot of contention about what the best ways to do it and the proper ways to do it and all of this kind of stuff. And there's also a little bit of contention when it comes down to what you guys call rebel canners.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That go off book or reasonably off book, if that's right. So yeah, you guys have gone tumbleweeds. No, you're allowed to discuss this stuff.
Well, here's the quick way, and I'm not jumping on what Cindy's saying because Cindy is correct. Probably Presto does say that, but Presto is a brand just like Ball is, just like whoever else is. That's from the USDA. That's what the guidelines are. Those are the rules established based on altitude, pressure, and everything else. So I use that. I'm not saying she's wrong. I'm not saying she's right, because others follow those guidelines as well. Or, a lot of people will say, well, my family's done it for 100 years and nobody's gotten sick. I'm here to tell you that a lot of the food that from 100 years ago is different now than it was then. It's not structured even the same anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying they're wrong. That's their choice, their kitchen. I go by this 99% of the time.
Yeah.
99.9% of the time. So.
And like I said before, I don't really look at other elevations. Like Tony had a question the other day and he was like, okay, Ginger, flip to page, whatever page it was we were looking on. I can't even remember now. And he's like, why does that say that? And I said, Tony, I don't know, because I never look at anybody else's altitude, and he's a different altitude than I am. So that's why it's so important that we all say, check your altitude, because I mean, I'm telling you, it took us a minute and then it dawned on both of us and we were like, duh, why didn't we think of that? But we figured it out. But because we're at two different altitudes, I never looked at what he was, he was at. I always just look at mine and then make sure, and reread every one before, because the time spans are so different. Like, you think all meats are done the same, and then you go to salmon and you think, oh, okay, well, fish, it's a meat. No, actually, salmon is done longer than beef.
Right.
So you've got to make sure, and if you think you've got it in your head, don't do that. Many times as I have done chicken, I will still go back and read it to the fullest.
Yes.
Right.
Just to make sure, because I may have done jam yesterday or green beans the day before or carrots or potatoes.
Yeah.
And I got that stuck in my head, and so to avoid disaster and over processing something, or God forbid, under processing something, just read your recipes all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, it's something that is very complex from what I can gather. It's an incredibly complex process. And you need to know your research. You need to have your stuff behind you to do it. And if you can get on a course on it, I would get on a course on it. Whereas what we do with so water bathing over here, we use for fruit, veg, and meat as well as fish. And we don't have any problems with that. That's just how we've always done it, and it's just what we're allowed to do. So, but you have to also know what you're doing with that as well. So you also need to do your research when it comes to that kind of stuff, because it can be dangerous. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
If you're not doing it properly, it can be dangerous. What we don't do, though, is high sugar foods. And things like tomato sauces and stuff like that, they tend to get hot packed. And what I mean by that is the lids and the jars are as hot as the sauce are going in.
Yeah.
Okay. Then they get you tighten it to finger tight and tip it upside down. Then that's when you come back, and you leave it to go cold overnight. And then when you flip it back up, it pops the seal down. Because we use a one-piece lid. So it just pops the seal down, pulls it down, creates that vacuum, and down it goes. But yeah, I mean, I'm 49. I started doing water bathing when I was 22. I've had 4 issues in that time. And one of them was caused by Tanny giving me the wrong lid. So he gave me one that wasn't clean, or I'd chosen not to use. I hadn't sterilized it. So on top of this jam, and it's still sitting on our bench, right? Because I'm seeing if it will keep growing. I want to see if it'll keep growing. It's been sitting there for 2 years on our bench, and like it's got a little bit of mold in there. I don't want to open it though. I don't want to open it. It's got a tiny little bit of fairiness over the top of it, and I'm like, I ain't opening that.
No.
No.
For a year I was thinking I'm going to open that. I'm going to save the jar and all of that kind of stuff. And now I'm just looking at it because it's fascinating.
No. Yeah.
But it's also a really good lesson to remember that these things can happen.
Yeah.
And if you do see problems at the top of your jars, to get rid of it.
Oof.
With inside.
Yes. And I don't think we have any one-piece lids offered over here. I don't think I've ever seen any.
I think that also is a difference that needs to be stipulated.
Yeah.
We in the U.S. use a two-piece lid system. Most of the world uses one-piece lid system. So that does make a difference also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do that. We have a one-piece system. The two-piece system I look at and go, oh, man, I would screw that up so bad.
You wouldn't. No, you wouldn't.
Really would.
It'd be fine.
I know it would.
No, you'd be just fine, Blue. It would go over just fine.
But like with the one-piece lids, though, we can reuse those over and over again until they start showing signs of wear and tear. Whereas with the two-piece lid, from what I can see, you have to get rid of the tops all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, to me, that's quite wasteful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's like they're metal. I would imagine that they're not recyclable. So, yeah.
Well, you can
use
them. If you wash them really good, you can use them for like your dehydrated stuff later on.
Right, yeah.
Just for dry storage type thing. Okay, you can reuse them for that, but they do not recommend that you use them to pressure can or water bath can again. I do like the WEC jars. I have several of those.
Yeah.
And they have the two-piece system too. Well, actually, I think it's 3 because it's got the gasket that you can reuse over and over and over, and then the glass lid, and then the clips to clamp it down. I actually love those jars for jellies and jams. They work out really good. They're so pretty too. I like your pretty jars.
I like pretty jars. I mean, that's why I buy the coffee that I buy, because it comes in those jars.
I know. I am so jealous. Tony, have you seen her coffee jars that she gets the coffee in? I mean, she buys it on, I was going to say on offer, which is how she says it. She buys it on sale just to get the jar. And I don't blame her. I would be right there beside you buying those jars because they're absolutely stunning. And I could see like herbs or lemon balm tea or something like dried like that being stored in there and just be absolutely beautiful. I love it.
Have you seen my shelfies? Have you seen my shelfies? Because that's what's exactly what's in it. That's what I put in them. I put in put my spice blends in them. I put my herbs, my extra, my wholesale spices. I put dried fruits, nuts, and all of that kind of stuff all in them. They're just amazing, and I love them. And guess what? They're on offer this week.
What? Oh my gosh! I want to go get some of those pretty jars.
Yeah, they're all
So I stand corrected. Corrected because I've seen Cindy's response, and I hope she's still in here because I owe her an apology. Okay.
Yeah.
When I seen what she said, I thought it was personal opinion, but she said she Googled it. But my brain kept like, wait a second. I have never seen a recipe that has said 5. It's always been 10 and 15. Yeah. I went back in the book and looked, and she is correct. What she found is correct. When it comes to fruit, the 5-pound weight is used.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
She is 100% spot on. I stand corrected.
All the time.
I stand corrected. I want everybody to know that because I don't
Yeah.
want to put out the wrong information. So
Yeah.
he
No,
was correct,
no.
I was wrong, and there are recipes that do use the 5-pound weight in the USDA book. So
And that's
sorry,
cool.
Cindy, I apologize.
Tony said, "Don't charge it to my heart, Cindy. I'm so
Yes.
sorry."
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Thank you.
Exactly.
Again,
Okay.
I just always look at my elevation.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So
one thing that I do want to know is this. Okay. Now I know that you guys go by specific cookbooks. Okay. But I
yes.
like to cook for how I like to eat. Now, if you
Yes.
have a recipe that's in the book that you don't particularly like exactly how it's made, can you change that for how you would like it?
Are you talking about just plain cooking food or canning food?
Canning food.
Oh.
So canning it. Like, you know, we all have different flavor tastes and flavors and stuff that we like to do, right?
Right.
So say for example there was a jam in there or something that had some kind of like something in it that or didn't have something in it that I would normally put in there or something like that. Is that going to change things?
So if you
I'm
want,
curious.
let me,
you know.
So just as example, okay.
Yeah.
If you want to do a blackberry jam, the recipe you have is blackberry, but you want to use currants, we'll say, okay. Yeah. You can't use the same recipe for currants because the structure of that berry is different. So you need to find a recipe that has currants. Now, if I'm making tomato sauce, or something of the like, pasta sauce, and it doesn't call for a dried herb, I'm allowed to insert said dried herb of my choice, but not fresh.
Okay.
Fresh, you have to follow certain listings in this book will tell you what you can change in and change out. Okay. Because they look at it as some of the herbs change the structure of what you're doing, possibly making it harder to penetrate to the center of the jar when it's pressure canned or water bath canned.
Okay. So would it be fair to say, okay, this is just me blowing here at the minute because I'm just trying to learn. Okay, I'm not trying to pick. I'm just trying to learn. All right. I want you to
pick away. We're ready for it.
All right. Would it be fair to say that pressure canning is better for ingredient-based processing and preserving than meal-based?
That's an opinion thing because there is a lot of meal-based recipes, soups in a jars, things like that. Mixed vegetables like succotash, corn relishes. Well, a lot of those are pickled, but still, I mean, but there are a lot of people out there that say, I would rather open a jar of carrots, a jar of potatoes, and a jar of meat that I've canned separately and dump them all together and make a larger pot. Whereas, like, if it's just me and Joey eating this particular meal and I have made meat, potatoes, and carrots and canned it as a soup in a jar, that's actually easier for us. So that actually is a preference.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just curious, that's all, because it's like, you know how you like to have the things that you like to have the way that you like to have them, right? Whereas if you have to go by a specific book and it's a specific way of doing things, to me, it's like, I can't do that all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So for me, if I was going to go that way, I probably, my personal preference, I think, would be to be doing ingredients rather than things like the jams, things like that. So
well, and I also look at it this way too, and it's why I ingredient can. It gives me more versatility.
Yeah.
If I have a soup or something that's already preset, theoretically, that's about all I'm going to use it for. Yeah. But if I have potatoes and carrots and mushrooms and beef broth and tomatoes and whatever, I can actually change it up on the spot if I want to without it affecting what my end result is. Whereas in a jar, that's about all I'm going to get out of it because that's what it was intended for.
Yeah. I think Mitchell was going to run off back to work, but so thank you for being here, dude. That was really sweet of you. It's great. See ya.
Yeah.
But
He did throw in one more comment, which is kind of goes to what I was saying. Well, too, and it's the quantity that's going to be eaten. So again, if it's just me and Joey, I don't want to open up an entire pint-sized jar of carrots, an entire pint-sized jar of potatoes, and a pint-sized jar of just say venison, and then a quart-sized jar of broth. I mean, there's 4 jars to make one thing for 2 people. It's just, it makes more sense for us to do it in a jar, get one meal out of it. And then, you don't have a lot of leftovers that you're worried about. Hey, am I going to eat this for 3 days? Tony's actually feeding a lot more people than Joey and I are. So for him, the ingredient thing, it just bodes well for him.
Yeah.
Right.
And that makes sense. And that makes sense. I was, like I said, I was just trying to, get opinion on it because it's like, I mean, I water bath and do my hot packing, like, but I have the freedom to be able to put whatever I want in that.
Right.
Yeah. Can I just say one? Yeah. Can I just make one really so super important point? Yeah. For anybody that does want to can or is canning or something like that, if you go out there and you're looking at all these different things, do not just feel like you have to can what you're seeing. Think about what your family would want to eat. Because for me, I watched a channel religiously, before, and I still do, but I was canning what she was canning. After I saw a video, I'd see a can. Some of those things I ended up throwing out like a month ago because it was like 2 years old and I hadn't eaten it, and it's not something I would reach for. Can the things that you're going to reach for to put in a pot and feed your family.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that goes with any preservation. If you're preserving food, especially what you grow in the garden, only grow what you're going to eat, because then you're going to preserve what you're going to eat and what your family's going to eat. And it's not going to go to waste, because that's the worst part, is putting all that effort in. And not actually, eating it, because it's devastating,
It is. And it's a labor of love, but it is labor intensive, to watch it, to prepare it, to do it, to wait till the 12 to 24 hours. That's very labor. You put a lot of effort in that, and for it to just go, you don't know how it killed me to throw those out. But
I can imagine.
Again, we weren't eating them, and I was like, that was another one of those things that I was like, oh, I want to do that. I bet it's great, and it wasn't.
So somebody once told me, we all know what a Monopoly board looks like, right?
Yes.
Okay. Somebody said treat every space on your shelf like Boardwalk and Park Place.
Yeah.
Because in the end of it, all of us are not going to want Mediterranean Avenue and Baltic Avenue all the way around in our pantry. Treat it like high-priced real estate, because that's what it should be. Use that space for what you're going to use. Use that space for what your family's going to eat, and don't waste money along the way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I completely agree with that. Yep. Yeah. And also, please, whatever you do your research.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Research. Just because you watched a video on it or read a book once or an article once or something like that, please do your research. If you are following channels that are doing canning, follow the ones that actually follow, the proper guidelines when it comes down to pressure canning and stuff. I know there's a lot of people out there that are what are known as rebel canners. I'm considered a rebel canner, but I don't pressure can. So, but I do it the way that is acceptable in the countries that I live in.
I was going to say you're in another country, so that has to be taken into consideration.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, I do preserving my way, but I will always be safe, and I will always follow proper food safety guidelines when it comes down to doing preserving of any foods in any way.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, again, it's going to go off. It's going to be wasted. It's just a waste of time and effort, and that's not okay.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that goes with that, Blue, real quick is don't take our words for it either. Go out and do your own research. Just because we're saying we know what we're talking about, we're not experts. We do it the way we do it for our own system, our own process, our own lives. Go do your research. You're in the U.S., read that book and figure it out yourself. Just like Cindy showed me, I was incorrect and I thought I was right. Anything can happen. You need to check.
Every day is a learning day,
Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
See you later.
Have a great day, Destiny.
So, and a lot of preservation is a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of long hours, when you do salt and sugar, even salt and sugar preservation, it may only take you 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there, but it's a month-long process. Where you have to remember and make notes for yourself that this has to be done at this point, or this has to be done at another point. And if you're not going to be there, someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's got to be done. So, it's something that you have to think about what time, look at the preservation methods that work for you. Vinegar pickling, alcohol immersion, olive oil immersion, all that kind of stuff, really quick to do. Obviously, freezing is the most labor intensive part of that is prepping the veg, to be fair, or prepping anything else. But a lot of the other ones are very quick to do and not as labor intensive, because once they're in the liquids, you can pretty much leave them to do their own thing. But be careful and just be sensible as well. Use the little grey matter up here. Do your research.
Yes.
Ask questions. There are no stupid questions when it comes to food preservation. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask. That's the one that you're going to wish you did.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So, So there we go. It's been fun. So if you guys in chat got any questions for us on anything that we have discussed today, because if you do, now is the time to ask them.
I'm gonna pause you for just 1 second. Okay, I'll be right back.
You get paused? I thought she muted you, not paused you.
I don't know, but she paused me.
Oh, pause.
Pause.
Does that mean we can't continue talking?
No.
Okay. I'm going to say continue on your merry way. She'll let us know when she gets back.
Yeah, I'd say so. What did Joey say?
He asked if I issued an apology.
Yeah.
Joey being Joey.
That's it. Oh, thanks, Joey. I really do appreciate that, darling. These episodes for this season of the Budgeting Lives are going to be released as a downloadable PDF that you can purchase at the end of the series. Okay, about a week after the series has ended, then it will be available. The money from that will go towards purchasing compost pots and seeds, etc., for growing veg seedlings for people who are using the food banks locally to me. So that's what that money will be going towards, because there is a group in town that actually supplies veg seedlings from people who have too many of them or whatever are willing to do that. So I want to make sure that I'm giving quite a few away this year. I have done quite a lot in the past, but I am running out of pots, and I'm certainly running out of compost. You know, it is happening. So, you know, but if you also are a Patreon, I do have a Patreon, and that's down below. The link to that's down below. It's $1 a month, and on there you will have downloadable recipe cards for my recipes that come up, and you will also each week. The first one came out last week. This week, the second one will be coming out from episode 2 will be coming out in the next couple of days for this. So you will be getting that for your Patreon. So yeah. So yeah, there you go. And of course, you know, follow us on our social media. And if you're not subscribed to these two lovely people here, why not? How dare you? Very rude.
Oh, or you.
I mean, come on. Yeah. So get subscribing to them. The links are down below in the description below as well. So, you know, and if you want to follow me on any of the social media, that's all down below. Everything is down below in the description.
Everything.
Yes. Yeah, so there you go. It has been awesome. Thank you guys so much.
It has been fun.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking me.
You are welcome.
Thank you, Cindy.
Yeah.
Oh, Cindy Squirrel off Grid. Hey.
Oh, thank you, Cindy.
That's been awesome. So yeah, I will see you guys later on. There will be. Oh no, well you do realize that I will be here on Kettle Kitchens, Mr. Tony's channel. It'll be tonight if you're in the States, and tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. if you're in the UK. Over on Tony's channel for his late night, where he's got a very lovely giveaway because he's got some special milestones that he has hit. So yeah, we're gonna all be hanging out over there and having a bit of a laugh. So yeah, all right, guys. Yeah. So you guys have a really awesome rest of your day, and we will catch you there.
Yes. Bye, guys.
Bye.